Okay, so what I'm making tonight is roasted potatoes with spinach, and so it's roasted potatoes, spinach, and sausage hash. It's really, Trenton, stop. No. Trenton, please put it back. One thing that I've learned while making this is that you want to cook your meat first, take your meat out, cut it. You can use anything other, you can use sausage or any other meat that you'd like, turkey sausage, chicken sausage. I use regular pork sausage. I actually already made a video while I was cooking, but it was really long, like 40 minutes, and I figured that would be too long to hold people's attention. So what I did was I tried to thaw out my sausage quickly, and that didn't work. So I figured while I was thawing my sausage, I would cook my potatoes. My potatoes are too soft, and they have become more mashed potatoes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut up my sausage. Sorry, I'm trying to find good vantage points, because yesterday there wasn't, and you guys got pretty much my armpit and all that fun stuff. So, Trenton, I said put it away. Thank you, bud. So I'm going to cut my sausage because typically what I do is I usually thaw out my sausage first. My sausage is not fully cooked at the moment, but typically I thaw out my sausage first, and if it's frozen, and that way I can just take it out of the casing, and then I typically smash it up, and so it turns more into like ground beef, because it's, once you take it out of the casing, it's ground sausage. So that's what I normally do, but I couldn't do that today because my sausage was still frozen. I was out looking at bridesmaids' dresses, so I wasn't really home, and I didn't take out the sausage before I left, which I really should have done. So what I did was I added a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper. What I typically do is I typically swirl olive oil in the pan. I don't measure it out, and I just eyeball it. And then I used like 2 cups of chicken broth. You don't have to use chicken broth. You don't have to use meat at all. This would actually be a really great meal for vegetarians. You could use other vegetables. You could use more than just potatoes. The kind of potatoes that I've used are just red potatoes. I don't peel the skin off red potatoes because it doesn't really need it, because this red potatoes are very, the skin on red potatoes is very thin. I am not a professional chef, so when I cook, my cutting technique and chopping and slicing technique is not that of a actual chef. I'm just a regular, everyday mom that loves to cook. So I don't go by recipes, but I did today. I only used 5 potatoes. That's what it calls for, which is really all I needed. I've got 6 people that are here at my house every other week. So usually I make a big meal, and I'm very used to making big meals. That's really what I've grown up doing, is making bigger meals. And I don't have a problem with making bigger meals because then I always have leftovers. But my problem is sometimes I make too big of meals and I have too many leftovers. So what I'm doing right now is, here, let me bring it back. I am just slicing my sausage. And if my sausage was cooked fully, which it will be, because I will turn the stove back on. If my sausage was cooked fully, I would be able to slice it more at an angle, but it's not that easy when the meat's not fully cooked, because then it kind of falls apart. Also, another reason why, if you are cooking your meat and you want to cook it first, I thought that I was doing myself a service by trying to cook the potatoes first. I really just cooked it all in one pan, which you are able to do. What you can do is, when you cook the meat first, there's always some fat that comes off, some grease or whatever, and cooking your veggies, your vegetables in that and leaving that in will really add some extra flavor and add some extra oomph to it. If you are like me and your slicing, cutting, chopping technique is not on point, that is perfectly fine. You're, just Picasso of the meals. So that's what I refer to as. It's Picasso. I'm going to turn my back. I'm sorry, that's definitely not the best thing to do, but I need to dump this in here and I can't bring y'all over while I'm doing that. So I have cooked my potatoes. I have cooked my potatoes too long, but that's okay because you know what? I'm not perfect, but I learned something valuable. And like I said, that was cook the meat first. Always cook the meat first. All right. So I'm going to turn this back on. I've also got to add the spinach. I have the lighter here. So I have a gas stove. I really love gas stoves. I'm sorry that this is not the most flattering vantage point, but this is what I got. I'm right-handed, so my arm's kind of in the camera, and I do apologize for that. My son was in the video that I was making for this, but like I said, it was just way too long. And I'm not funny. I'm not a comedian. I like to cook, so I don't tell jokes. And 40 minutes is just really way too long. I added about, where's my things? I must have been in the sink already. Don't know why I would have done that. So I added about 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper. I added a half of tablespoon of onion powder, a half of tablespoon of garlic powder, and then I'm a spice girl. I really love different spices and herbs. So I also use tomato basil garlic seasoning. It's Mrs. Dash. It's really amazing. I love it. It's wonderful. If you're doing anything with like chicken, really any other meats, salads, you just want to be careful. You probably want to put it in with the dressing to like soften it up. But that's typically what I use. I also, so most of my meals I use onion and garlic powder. That's my meals. I love onion and garlic powder, salt and pepper. Sometimes that's all I do. But today I mixed it up and I used some of that tomato, basil, garlic. It really is. It's amazing. It always adds wonderful flavor. I love olive oil. I use extra virgin olive oil. It's my favorite oil to use. I don't typically like to use vegetable oil. It's just not as healthy. This will be the best for you. It's got, you know, no carbs. It's got 14 grams of fat, but saturated fat is 2 grams. So this is the good kind of fat that you want in your diet. Whereas the vegetable oil will have like fat that doesn't work good with your body. So extra virgin olive oil is the best. You can use vegetable oil by all means. Hey, use what you got. Do you? That's just what I like to use. I'm sorry, I'm saying a lot. I used about 2 cups of chicken broth. You can use less than that. The potatoes, when I started making them first, which I told you was a mistake, don't do your potatoes first. Really, the potatoes absorb it, and because they're starch, they thicken it up. They thicken up whatever liquid. The recipe calls for water instead of chicken broth, but I love chicken broth. I really do. I'm sorry, I'm going to put my hair up. And then I'm going to use some baby spinach for it. You want to wait until your meat is fully cooked before you put the spinach in, because the spinach, when it starts to cook, will wilt. And you want it to wilt down, but you don't want it to wilt down too much. Now what you can do is you can put spinach in it, let it wilt down a good amount, and then you want to put some more in there to make it more lively. And that's really where the presentation comes in. I'm not good with food presentation. I don't garnish. Like that's not really where I come in. I come in for like the taste. I don't do garnishing. So I have potatoes and onions in here that I have cut up. I've used red onions today instead of white onion.
Play outside.
You want to go play outside?
Yeah.
Okay. My son helped me. If I were to post that other video, you would see he was being very helpful, but the video is just way too long, so I'm not going to post that video.
Cute?
Let me hear something cute.
When I went outside, because you said I could, I saw 3 deer.
3 deer?
In the horse cage, and they jumped out.
In the horse's
Yeah.
yard?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And they jumped over the black fence.
Awesome. So, sausage is almost cooked. My potatoes are way overcooked. So please, whatever you do, cook your meat first. It's okay if your meat is frozen, you can still cook it. I typically thaw it out first, but like I said, today I was I was busy today, so I didn't get the chance to bring out the meat. I forgot before I left to bring the meat out, which I really should have, and I usually don't forget to bring out the meat, but I did today. So I think I'm going to add the spinach now. Now, if I can incorporate vegetables in my meals, I will. I'm not a full meat type of person. The recipe also calls for bell peppers, but I didn't have any bell peppers. Unfortunately, I really love bell peppers. I love cooking with bell peppers. They're amazing. Yellow bell peppers and orange bell peppers. no, red and orange bell peppers are pretty much the sweetest. Yellow bell peppers are still sweet, but they're more on the tart side, and then green bell peppers are going to be the most tart. They're still not tart, but yeah, they're not spicy, which is good, especially if you have kids and they don't do spice. If you have a kid and they like spice, I would suggest doing maybe like a spicy pepper, or, you know, adding some other spices. You can make it, you can use like Mexican spices, which I do like to use Mexican spices and things. So Mexican spices and taco seasoning are different. They have like different things in them. I don't exactly know what exactly the spices that are different, but if I'm gonna make something, I typically like to use Mexican spices. If I'm making anything more along the lines of a Mexican dish. Spanish, Mexican, sorry if that offended you, but that wasn't meant to. Yeah, so you can see some of them are wilting down. I like to make my dishes colorful. This one's not going to be all that colorful because I don't have the bell peppers in it. So, yes. I'm also trying to make it a little bit shorter video because I really don't want a 40-minute video, and editing is not my forte. So, yeah. It's not going to look like the picture, unfortunately. I wish it would, but it's not because I don't have the bell peppers. And then when it's all said and done, I'm going to add some more spinach to it to liven it up. So if I'm lacking an ingredient, or sometimes I just add like a random ingredient that I feel will make it better. So if I don't have one ingredient, most of the time I try to find another one to substitute it, but today I don't have anything that can really substitute the bell peppers, so we're just going to have it without the bell peppers, and I feel like it'll still be really good. So this is what it's really aimed to look like, which still looks really good, but like I said, don't have the bell peppers. I really love using red and orange bell peppers when I'm cooking. I do use green bell peppers, but when I'm cooking something like this, I do love to use like colorful ones. I love to make my food colorful, at least the best that I can, because food can't always be super colorful. But I do love to add color. Flavor's really more what I'm geared for. What I aim for is really good flavor. My suggestion is, I'm splashing all over myself. Wear an apron. I have an apron. I'm just not wearing it. It's actually a really cute apron too, so I might wear it. But just taste your food. That's a step that I always forget until I'm actually eating it, is to actually taste my food. Well, that potato was like perfect. So there is a difference between breakfast sausage and Italian sausage. It's not a huge difference, it's a little minuscule, but Italian sausage is usually made with Italian flavorings. Breakfast sausage does have the fennel in it. Italian sausage will have fennel in it, which gives it really that that sausagey flavor, but they'll add different spices in it to make it more Italian-y versus breakfasty. The Italian flavor in the Italian sausage will accent the Italian, and the breakfast will obviously accent breakfast food. Well, this is pretty much done. This is what it looks like. It's gonna be so good. Add your own little touch. It's what I love to do. I don't go by a recipe, like I said. Typically, I throw my food together. Sometimes I do go by a recipe, like I did today, but I didn't fully follow it. I never fully follow recipes. I only use recipes really as a guideline and as ideas as to make other stuff and different and new fun things. The two food types that I usually go more towards is Italian and Spanish, Mexican, because I just love those flavors, the way that they flavor their food and spice it up and use things to accent each other. I just really love it. So they're definitely my two favorite genres to explore. Well, thanks for watching. You have a wonderful time. I hope this gave you a good idea. Just remember, if you're going to use potatoes or meat or make this dish, make the meat first, and then take the meat out to cut. If you don't use sausage, you don't use raw sausage, and just, you know, chop it up like ground beef. You can get ground Italian sausage, and that works wonders. You can just, you know, chop it up and bite little bits. So if you don't do that first, then if you don't use that kind of sausage, then then make the meat first and then cut the meat up. While you're cutting the meat up, cook the potatoes, and then you can just add everything back together. All right, have a wonderful night. Bye.